All right, I'm not one to exaggerate, but this video might change your life because I know it would have changed my life if I had known about this type of guy when I first started dating. Because it seems to me like almost every woman has dated at least one guy who acts like this commitment phobic man I'm going to describe in this video. He comes in very hot, he moves things very quickly, he pursues you pretty hard, you're texting every day, he may call you, he may say things like, I just wanted to hear your voice, or like he's into you at first. And you're approaching him cautiously when this first starts, but he seems so genuine that you let yourself believe it's real and you start to lean into it. You start to make some commitments towards him. It gets physically intimate or emotionally. You start to feel like you have a connection with him. So you start to share more with him instead of keeping him at arm's length like you were before. And then out of nowhere, he changes. And then out of nowhere, he changes. Sometimes it's gradual and sometimes it's all at once, but the shift in who he is and how he's acting towards you is very clear. He's slower to respond. He's less available. He's less eager to talk to you or be around you to set up dates. He may seem colder. He may seem less affectionate. And you're left to think about his distance as something that you did wrong. You are very confused why this guy who seemed so into you just pulled away or completely disappeared, because you don't understand how he could switch it up like that when not too long ago he was telling you how much he liked you and seemingly doing all of the right things to get you to trust him. These men can steal years of your life. How they treat their partners would drive anyone up the wall. I experienced this kind of man once in my life and never again. Oh my gosh. I've learned my lesson the first time, and it took me several years to dissect what exactly happened and my role in attracting this kind of guy and letting him get underneath my skin like that. So in this video, I'm going to show you what's happening here, the stages this guy usually cycles through, and what you can do to not get played by these commitment phobic guys ever again. So let's start with why he's sending so many mixed signals. But first, I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm not a therapist. I'm not saying all men are commitment phobic. I'm just saying enough of them are commitment phobic that most women who have dated men have run into a man like this. This video is intended for the women who are dating those men. The reason I didn't title it Commitment Phobic People is because I cannot find any literature on commitment phobic women. I have a lot of trouble coming into that. I did consult several books for this video. I will put them in the description, but these are just a handful of them. But the literature mostly focuses on avoidantly attached men and anxiously attached women, and I will talk a little bit about that. And I don't have enough experience dating women to extrapolate from it. I also think that there are obviously commitment phobic women out there, but I don't know how they act. I don't know if they follow this cycle. I think this is a particularly male cycle, honestly. I do know that most women are anxiously attached and most men are avoidantly attached just because of how we are raised. Men are taught to suppress their emotions and therefore they're taught to avoid, avoidantly attached. Women are taught to, if they meet an emotion, their own or someone else's, they have to manage the environment that they're in. They have to manage the situation and do something to make that emotion go away. That is why they end up being reactive. They end up being anxious. They're reacting to their partner. They're trying to make the problem go away. So that's where those patterns come from. I don't want you to take away from this video that I'm some sort of biological essentialist and I think that men behave one way and women behave the other way. I'm saying that because of how we are raised, we develop patterns and they just happen to track with our gender because of society. I don't actually think men and women are all that different. It's just a coping mechanism that some people have developed to prevent connection and to try to explain away their unwillingness to change. And I also don't want you to think I'm saying all women are great and perfect. They're not. As you'll see, I'm about to talk about in this video what women themselves who are attracting these men into their lives, the red flags that they are missing in the beginning of the relationship is what you have to pay attention to, okay? Because I've been love bombed a handful of times by guys, and it took me a really long time to realize my own role in that experience, what I was getting out of it. You can prevent this from happening to you. You can take steps to try to mitigate this, but it takes practice and it takes being honest with yourself. And I know some people will find that to be victim blamey, like, oh, you're blaming the woman for the man mistreating her. No, I'm not. I'm saying if you want to stop attracting these guys, you're going to have to change, because they're never going to change, or at least the odds are they won't change. Because quite frankly, I don't think most of them are aware they're doing it. But you can be aware of your own stuff, and you can take steps to protect yourself if you want that. But if you don't, no one can force you. And with that, let me explain why these commitment-phobic guys are acting this way. This guy is avoidantly attached. So there are two types of avoidant attachment. There's either fearful avoidant, which is also called disorganized attachment, and then there's dismissive avoidant. If you want a deeper dive into anxious attachment styles, I did an entire video about that. You can check it out. But the short version is a fearful avoidant is a person who is driven by an internal tug of war between their desire for closeness and their fear of it. So the core of their fear is abandonment. And usually this is tied to childhood stuff. I'm not going to go into that now, like too deep, but what you need to know to understand this is that this person, the fearful avoidant, craves connection, but they also equate long-term emotional investment with losing their individuality. Also, they're afraid of like being found out as like fatally flawed. Like they think if people get too close, they'll see their flaws and they'll abandon them, right? That's the core of it. When it comes to being a dismissive avoidant, you can either be motivated by a fear of being smothered, like losing your sense of safety and your sense of self in the relationship, or you can be afraid of being criticized. Like you perceive every single thing as a slight. Over time, you start to hear your partner who constantly nagging you about things. And every single time she says something, even if she's just reminding you to walk the dog, his brain goes to, oh my God, she thinks I'm an idiot and I can't remember to walk the dog. It's a faulty way of thinking about their relationships. So getting close threatens his self-image as independent and self-sufficient, and it also threatens his ability to stay safe. The commitment phobe also tends to have an unrealistic all or nothing idea of love and relationships, which means that once the initial high of the chase fades off and the reality of the commitment he's making sets in, he sees the relationship as imperfect. And it's not worth it if she's imperfect. Like she's not the one, and he justifies him pulling back. It makes me think of this metaphor of him being claustrophobic, but he also thinks the pinnacle of happiness is on top of like a really tall building, like the Empire State Building or like Top of the Rock or something. And he's fantasizing about getting to the top, but he has to stand the tight confines of the elevator in order to do it. And so he doesn't actually know what it is he's imagining at the top because he doesn't let people in his life get close to him. So he doesn't have a realistic understanding of what true intimacy looks like, because the elevator is the intimacy. That's what relationships are. That's why we seek them out. Relationships are vehicles for connection. And when he gets in that claustrophobic elevator, he freaks out because he's not actually seeking connection. He's not actually seeking intimacy. He has this incredibly fantasized version of intimacy and connection in relationships that is sitting at the top of the very tall building. But the second he gets a taste of what it actually is by being near a woman that he's courting and that he's like trying to build a relationship with, he freaks out. He follows a cycle that's very similar to the cycle of narcissistic abuse. But I just want to add a note here that I'm not calling this guy a narcissist. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, like this archetype of a person throughout the video. And I understand that might upset some of you because you've been very hurt by this person. Trust me, I get it. I've been hurt by a person like this. But just because he's engaging in the patterns I'm about to describe does not automatically make him a narcissist. He's a person who is having an internal battle with himself. Like I said, like I've experienced a guy like this, and it was devastating. Like the way he treated me made me feel insane. Okay. But ultimately, the way I had to heal from that experience was to understand that it wasn't about me. He was a scared little boy who's not emotionally intelligent enough to hold himself accountable for how he treats people. And yeah, he's also an insensitive jerk at the very least. I'll give you that. But at the same time, I also had to reckon with my role in allowing things to progress as they did. And that's honestly the most important part of this video. I want you to see the patterns. I want you to understand what's happening in his head. But at the same time, you need to recognize what roles you played here. I want you to understand the patterns he engages in, the patterns you engage in, how you can break those patterns, because he's not going to do it. You have to be responsible for spotting these guys. They will rope you in because it's almost like they're enticed. It's almost like they're under a spell. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have the awareness. And that is why it's so important to do the inner work while you're dating, because so many people are not doing it. And if you want a few more tools to do the work, I created a journal prompt deck. It's a PDF you can download to your computer or your phone. And I designed it in a way where you can use it right on the computer, or you can print them out and cut them up and put them in a jar or a Ziploc bag and pick one out at random. Whenever you need inspiration for journaling, it's only $7. But if you're not sure or you're not in a position to buy right now, you can get 10 of my favorite journal prompts for free, just classic journal prompts that will stir some ideas in you if you sign up for my newsletter, Notes on Growth, where I go into even more depth and give you more tips on how to hold yourself accountable while you're building this dream life for yourself with your dream relationships. Signing up for the newsletter and subscribing to this channel really helped me, especially as I try to grow this platform in a sustainable way. So I greatly appreciate you being here, even if you don't buy anything. Thank you so much. Let's lay out those commitment-phobic stages I mentioned. Stage 1 is the chase and seduction. So what he does is he comes in hot, okay? He's romantic, he's attentive, he's available. It seems like he cannot get enough of you. He's constantly texting you. Maybe he's even calling or FaceTiming you a lot. And he opens up to you. He makes you feel chosen in a way that feels rare. And because it's so rare, it feels genuine. He may drop hints of a future together, like taking trips or meeting his family, or like just future faking you, like future plans. He may spend a lot of money on you, actually. And it seems like he will do anything for you. He's also opening up to you a lot. He seems very vulnerable and sincere. He may explain why his past relationships haven't worked out and frame it as if his ex was the problem and like she didn't really love him or didn't appreciate him and really hurt him and made him feel like he'd never love anyone again. I've also heard of situations where he blamed himself entirely for the other relationship. It wasn't like a give or take. So keep that in mind. His neediness makes you think that when you need him for something, he'll be there for you because you're there for him. It just seems like a mutually open and emotional relationship. And he's thinking about you all the time. That's true, but in an unrealistic way. The way he's thinking is that he's genuinely enjoying this chase process. At this point, his commitment fears aren't being triggered yet because it's early and very low stakes. He sees you as different, but this isn't based on reality. It's a projection of what he wants you to be. He's made up this idealized version of you in his mind because he doesn't know you. Like, he can't know you. He just met you. Even if it's been a few months, like, he really can't know you that well yet. Now, frequently the woman, you, may be hesitant at first, but you gave him a chance. And over time, you start to feel really special because of how he's treating you. Like, you like that he's making it so clear that he wants you, because so many other guys just seem so blasé. They seem so nonchalant. With you and this guy, there's no room for ambiguity about where he stands. Like, he's into you. You feel like you're safe because you're not concerned he would ever reject you. And so you drop your boundaries and you speed up the emotional vulnerability to match his pace, because he seems so sure of you and the relationship. So that makes you feel more secure in how he feels. But then stage 2 comes around, and stage 2 is the shift. At this point, he might pull back subtly. He's texting less. He's vague about plans. He's busier. He's still around, but he's kind of avoiding deep talks, or he changes the subject when feelings come up. Like, there's something going on here. You start to sense something's off, like he's different, but you can't really put your finger on it, and you kind of convince yourself that it's on your head, or it's just a coincidence, or he's really busy at work, or whatever it is. Like, you haven't known him that long by definition. And so when this shift happens, you convince yourself that it's temporary. Like, this isn't really who he is. He's going to go back to being that other guy that was obsessed with you. See, he may not be able to articulate this, but the fact that you guys are now closer starts to trigger his fear of being trapped or losing his freedom. So he starts focusing on all of the flaws that he can see in you now. Remember, he was fantasizing about you before. He wasn't actually seeing you. And now he's saying to himself, like, how this relationship will never, ever work. And now he's coming up with reasons in his head why this relationship would never work. And he may even be telling you some of those things, though sometimes that's saved for stage 3. He treats you as though you are less of a priority and has a million excuses why he can't prioritize you. He may even treat most of your requests as though they're demands, and he seems to resent being counted on by you. How dare you expect me to show up? Even though he would in that first stage. In the first stage, he might have been driving all hours of the night to go see you, or offering to paint your apartment and stuff like that, like doing crazy things that most people wouldn't do for someone they just met. Things that weren't a problem before seem to be insurmountable inconveniences to him now. Like, all of a sudden, he can't come over because parking is too difficult by your place, or it's too far to drive, even though he was fine driving it before, or your bed hurts his back and it's impossible to sleep at your place. Like, he'll come up with any excuse to not come over, to not see you. He may start leaving clues that he's thinking about other women, or even seeing other women from his past. The thing about this stage is that it can be brief, or it can last years of him being like weirdly hot and cold like this. The woman he's dating typically starts to panic at this stage because she tries harder to win him back to stage 1 energy, because in her mind, that's who he really is. That's who she met first. That's who she wants him to be, because the love bombing that we described in stage 1 was pumping her with so much dopamine all of the time that she was kind of riding a high, and it was just ripped away from her. So she really wants it back. And this is where you start to feel crazy. You start to feel like an addict. So that begins this switch up where she's now chasing and accommodating him instead of him chasing her. And that brings us to stage 3, which is the withdrawal. During this stage, his attitude towards you completely changes. Like, before in stage 2, he was seeing you a little bit and he was talking to you, but now he seems really withdrawn. You may go days without hearing from him. He spends less time with you. He does not give you any explanation. He insists upon flexibility and space. He breaks dates and changes plans. He's moody a lot, but blames it on something else, like his work, or I don't know, like his mom or his roommate or something. Like, there's something going on that is causing him to be moody, but you're like, okay. He's confusing you by what he says, and he's sending a lot of mixed messages. He may withdraw sexually and blame it on something else as well, like work or not feeling well, when before he could not get enough of you. And he won't do anything at all to try to repair the relationship. Even when you try making suggestions or try to talk to him about it, he does not want to deal with it. He just wants to avoid. At this point, he feels relief because he has created space between you two. Like, it started in stage 2 with the devaluing part of things and him coming up with reasons why things won't work. But now he's really just pulling away entirely. He also might feel guilty for hurting you, but he justifies it because he may be thinking something like, I'm protecting her from me if he has really low self-esteem, or it's for the best because it'll never work out and I'm just wasting her time anyway, that sort of thing. And he's trying to run away from you without running away, because even though he's afraid to make a commitment to you, he's also afraid to make a commitment like running away from you. Like, he's afraid of commitment, period. He doesn't want to make a choice. And there's this concept of pueria aeternus, like the eternal child, and that comes up a lot with a lot of men who haven't dealt with their emotional stuff. Like, they're just afraid to make a choice because they're afraid to make the wrong choice. It could be in a career, it could be with a partner, it could be with where to live, it could be a lot of things. And so there's this indecision that plagues his entire life in a lot of situations. Because once he gets enough space, that overwhelming fear he has fades, and he does miss you. His feelings are real to him, but just because he's not intentionally trying to hurt you, this is him being protective of himself. That's what he's doing. But like, just because he's not trying to hurt you, that doesn't mean the impact isn't terrible. Like, impact does not care about intent. Intent only matters when you're trying to repair things, but it will never erase impact. And if you've been on the receiving end of this sort of hot and cold behavior, it's very bad. You will lose your mind because you feel blindsided. You are obsessively replaying what you could have done wrong to make him switch it up like this, because he seems like two completely different people and you don't know how to make sense of this erratic behavior from him. And the only way you can do that is to try to figure out if you've done something to offend him. And you may get to the point where you can no longer handle the mixed signals and you end it. And frequently, he ends up begging for you to take him back. And he says that he'll change. He might change for a little while, but he reverts back to this withdrawn version of himself eventually. And that leads to stage 4, which is the bitter end. So stage 4 is usually where he provokes you into ending it by starting a huge argument or engaging in particularly outrageous behavior like cheating on you, or putting you in unsafe situations. And so he's trying to get you to leave. And he may just ghost you and let the relationship die. That happens, obviously. At this point, you're probably experiencing withdrawal from him. You're going over the relationship in your mind, trying to make sense of it. You may write him a 5-paragraph essay text because you're looking for closure or a way to explain what's happening or a way into talking about things and hoping that maybe he'll come back, or hoping for him to apologize or to explain it was a misunderstanding. Like, you're grasping for anything because you're losing your mind. And stage 4.5, I guess, is like the zombie stage. Like, he may reappear after a period of time and test to see if the door to your life is still open. He may claim that he's changed or that he misses you because he's gotten enough space to no longer feel like he's being suffocated by this impending doom of commitment. So he really does miss that idealized fantasy he created in the beginning of the relationship. So it's kind of like he got off the elevator and he forgot how terrified he was of the elevator, but he started to feel like he really wanted what's at the top on the roof again. And so he's like, oh, I can handle the elevator. Yeah, I'm wrong. I really want the idealized version on the roof. And so he tries to get back in the elevator. And when he tries to rekindle things, she feels validated because she sees him coming back as proof that he did care this entire time. So she may jump right back in without requiring new evidence that he's changed his behavior. And then the whole cycle starts again. And that's why you're here watching this video. You're exhausted. You want to scream. But we can fix it, girl. I have faith in us. So here's how you should react during that stage 1, during the chase and seduction stage. Because you can spot this guy if you do some things. There's some things you're overlooking. You can call them red flags. It's just, there are ways to make this guy flee early, okay? That's what we want. Remember, the goal is not to change him. The goal is not to reform him. The goal is to not get sucked in by him, to keep your wits about you when he's seducing you, essentially, in that love bombing stage. Because if you are solid, if you have a solid foundation for what you want and what you're looking for in a partner, you will repel these men. And I've tested this out personally. It works because at this point, he's usually more interested in you than you are in him. That's typically how it shakes out. He's love bombing you. He's showering you with a concentrated dose of affection that came on very suddenly. Remember, at this stage, he's thinking about today. He's not thinking about the future. And that is a key point here. You have to remember that he is not thinking the way you are. Cross-gender mind reading. He is having a very different emotional experience of you than you are of him. The smart response here is the stronger he comes on to you, the more skeptical you should be. And I know that goes against all of the how to make him obsessed with you advice that you see on the internet. That advice will run you straight into this man's lap. It's really nice to find that someone is obsessed with you, but quite frankly, when you have anxious reactive attachment tendencies, this stage feels like a dream. you're sensitive with anxious attachment. You're sensitive to feeling forgotten or neglected. So when someone is all over you from day one, it wipes out that uncertainty that someone wants you. You don't have to sit with the uncomfortable vulnerability that comes with healthy relationships. Intimacy should be built gradually. It involves steadily matching energy over time. And when someone has an anxious reactive attachment style, skipping that part feels comfortable because the intensity feels like safety, but in reality, it's actually a danger sign. And people with secure attachment would recognize that. I made this video about love bombing that I'll link it in the cards, and it took me a few times of experiencing love bombing to realize that I was enabling that behavior because it actually felt good to me. This man responds more to fantasy than to who you actually are. It's easy to be flattered, but he doesn't know you yet, okay? So you need to pay attention to what he says and does and to what he doesn't do. Do not assume that his urgency to have sex means he's serious. Men will sleep with women they're not remotely serious about. Men and women typically pick their sexual partners under very different criteria. Sure, women do hook up. I'm not denying that. Like, obviously, they'll hook up with random dudes, but women are more likely to take who a person is into consideration when choosing a sexual partner because it's like a safety thing. And also, what if I get pregnant and all that stuff? Like, there's all these considerations. Whereas men don't always do that, or usually do that even. Like, I don't know. I don't have statistics on that, but it does seem to me like they could find your personality repulsive and they would never want to introduce you to a single person in their life and they would still sleep with you. Their bar for sexual partners is simply lower. So do not sleep with him because you feel guilty about the time, money, and effort he has put into you. He's a grown-ass man. If he's offering to do things or buy you things, he's doing it out of his own volition. He doesn't need to be rewarded with sex. Okay, especially before you're comfortable. You get to decide when you sleep with him, not him. Do not sleep with him because you think getting the sex over with will stabilize the relationship. It won't. He'll withdraw more. If he's going to leave, it's better that he does it now rather than 6 months in once you've become attached to him and then feel betrayed. Okay? So hold off on the sex, please. And again, the core of this advice is that he does not think like you do. He may spend money on you. He may show you emotional depth. He may do big favors for you. And you may read that as proof that he's committed, but his definition of commitment and trust is not the same as yours. To him, trust might just mean he's not lying to you to get sex. Whereas to you, trust means emotional safety and follow through. You're speaking different languages. And you need to notice that, and you need to be aware of that. He might say he's looking for something serious. In the moment, he might believe it because he feels so good. He's not afraid of the elevator yet. But if he's commitment phobic, if he's avoidantly attached, he's never had the kind of relationship he's describing. He's talking in broad, romantic, someday terms. He's not making a plan with you when he's saying these things. He's fantasizing out loud. So when you talk about the future, odds are your words mean something to you and you choose them carefully because you usually follow through with what you say. He doesn't do that or think that way. So do not let vague declarations make you start imagining marriage or kids or growing old with him. It is premature. I don't want you to become super jaded because I know this is exhausting, but the only thing that cures this is time. You just need to go slowly. You need to watch him. You need to watch what he does and put more weight in what he does versus what he says. People can say anything, okay? It doesn't mean anything until they match it with what they do. And frequently you'll see these guys make this faux commitment move. Men like this will often do something that looks serious way too early, like suggesting a trip after knowing you for like a week or two. That's his idea of commitment and intimacy because he's never actually committed to anyone. It kind of reminds me of my 6-year-old niece blaming the family dog for drawing on the wall. Like, she doesn't even know the excuse makes no sense because she doesn't know how things work. He's just as clueless about what real commitment is and what actual intimacy looks like. He thinks a trip is intimacy when a securely attached woman with her guard up would think that's crazy, like getting on a plane with someone after a week of knowing them. It is not a normal way to show your commitment or intimacy to somebody. Just like my 6-year-old niece doesn't understand that dogs can't draw. The other thing I want you to do is watch his patterns with other people. If he's doing big favors for you early on, ask yourself, does he treat his long-term friends and family the same way? Like, is he just an accommodating guy who likes to offer people favors? Or is this the level of effort reserved for new flings that he's excited about, but isn't thinking realistically about? Because honestly, men with healthy priorities do not drop everything for someone they just met. That kind of all-in energy this early on usually means he's projecting a fantasy. He wants to save you or to help you live your best life because he's imagining himself as the hero. And this is an easy way to execute that. It's not rooted in a realistic future with someone because, again, odds are he doesn't know you well enough yet to know if he wants something from you. So sure, you can let him paint your apartment or drive 3 hours to see or whatever it is he says he's willing to do, but don't take it as proof you're in a relationship with him. Don't start acting like his wife just because you think that's what he's hinting at. Because remember, if this keeps happening to you, where you get involved with guys like this who progress the relationship way too quickly, you have to take accountability for allowing that inappropriate speed. I know that a lot of you probably have trouble dating without losing your mind, so I made this video with my top tips for how to stay sane while dating. Thank you so much for getting to the end. You are the best. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It helps these videos get seen by more people. And please consider subscribing to my newsletter if you want more insights from me about life, about growth, relationships, all of that. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.